Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the Kiwi Ears Quartet, and these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank Linsoul for providing the Kiwi Ears Quartet for a review. Do greatly appreciate it. Linsoul Audio, you rock. Alright, so the Kiwi Ears Quartet, this will set you back $110 from your bank account. It is a quad driver hybrid. It has two 10mm dynamic drivers and two balanced armatures, 32 ohms of impedance, 110 decibels sensitivity, frequency response range of 20 Hz to 20 kHz, and it also has tuning switches. So the Quartet, it comes in this purple box, IEM picture on the front, some branding, says Live the Music. On the back side, we got some contact information. One side you have specs, other side you have some more branding. Inside, it's very uninspiring, so we're not even going to open it. Get a carrying case, says Kiwi Ears on it. Hard shell, very small. This would definitely fit in cargo pants pocket or in a bag, and it's going to protect your IEMs. Opening it up, you get a pocket up top for some tips, and then the bed to hold your IEMs. The only other accessory that you get besides the carrying case is 3 different types of tips. So you get this gray with red stem, white, and then black. All silicone, all small, medium, and large. Black ones didn't really fit me very well. The smoke with red stems fit me okay, but I found that the white ones were just a little more comfortable. I didn't really notice a difference in sound signatures between them, so I just used the white. And then you have your Quartet. And we're going to talk about the cable since I have to untangle it here. The cable is a little bit frustrating. It's not the greatest of cables. It's basically the same cable that came with the Cadenza. Kind of frustrating, really weak ear hooks. And it just feels cheap. Doesn't really feel like a cable worthy of a $110 IEM. Connects with 2-pin. The IEMs themselves are very nice looking. They are purple. They're cool. You got a little bit of logos here on the side of the faceplate. They are built just like the Cadenza and the Orchestra Lite. Same size. You do have the tuning switches here on the back. I find them to be very attractive. You got a little bit of a wing and then a nice angle, kind of a short nozzle, but not too much of an issue. They go into ears and they just disappear. I find them to be extremely comfortable. I can wear these for hours on end, 4 or 5 hours, no problems whatsoever. Find isolation of outside noises to be good, about 65% of outside noises being blocked, and good for around the office, around the house, around the neighborhood. I'm not sure how they would do with public transit, as I didn't take any trips, but they do block out most noises. Louder stuff like cars going by, vacuums, coffee grinders, that type of thing, you'll hear it at a lesser volume. So overall, I like the build of the Kiwi Ears Quartet, and I like the look of them. They're nice and light, they're comfortable, do a good job with isolation. Cable could be a little bit better. Quartet is fairly easy to drive. I had no issues using them with dongles, DAPs, or desktop. Everything drove them with ease. Dongles had no issues whatsoever. And the only thing that's kind of note when it comes to sources is a warmer source is going to kind of be a slight detriment to the sound, at least it was for me. It caused the Quartet to kind of sound muddy and a little sluggish, especially in the bass and in the lower mids. Analytical, colder sources are also going to be a little bit of a detriment because they're going to sound a little bit harsh and just a little bit more brittle up top. So just beware of what your source sounds like. It could impact the overall presentation. But I found that they were very easy to drive. The tuning switches. On the back side here of the shell, The tuning switches, you got two of them. The first one controls the bass and lower mids, and the second one controls the upper mids and treble region. And I found that I preferred them to be in the up position, both of them. It had a little bit more of a cohesive and balanced sound signature than all of the others. And I also found that it was a not near as bassy and warm and thick, or near as harsh and forward in the uppers. So moving the number one switch down activated the bass, and it just became a very bloated and very thick and warm sound, and it dominated the rest of the sound signature and kind of V-shaped the sound, turning the mids to be recessed and then the treble to be a little bit tame, and it was just overbearing. I did not care for that sound. Activating number two switch pushes the mids and treble forward, causing it to be a little bit more shouty and aggressive, and I just found it to be too painful, and it was a little bit ear fatiguing. Having both of them down was really painful for me, and I really could not listen to it for more than one song. It was just a no-go having both down. It was just not pleasurable whatsoever. It could affect you differently, but for me, the only one that I really enjoyed and was able to listen for extended periods of time was having both of them in the up position. Before we get into the sonic impressions of the Kiwi Ears Quartet, I want to thank my supporters through Patreon and YouTube memberships. Thank you very much for all that you provide to the channel. It's much appreciated. And I know that it's not easy to take funds out of your own personal budgets to give to a channel and to help them grow and support them and watch them continue putting forth videos and all that kind of stuff. So it's a sacrifice on your part, and I do appreciate you giving a little bit to the channel. It's much appreciated. All funds given to the channel do go back into the channel and are used to purchase gear to review, purchase gear to use to produce the videos, purchase gear to use as comparisons and reference gear, music to listen to, and coffee to drink. So I do greatly appreciate anything and any funds that are presented to the channel is much appreciated. If you are interested in supporting the channel, please check out the links down below. There's all kinds of ways that you can do it. One-time gifts through PayPal, Venmo, or monthly subscriptions through Patreon and YouTube memberships. Check out those links down below. While you're down there, don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video. How do the Kiwi Ears Quartet sound? The bass of the Kiwi Ears Quartet is all about the quantity, not really about the quality. It has a pleasing and fun bass. It's a very fun and engaging bass, but it's not super detailed or resolving. It's more about just giving it to you. It extends decently into the sub bass. It's not really the focal point, but there is enough there to give you a little rumble and grumble. Mid bass and upper bass is where all the action comes from, and you get a lot of it. It's got a lot of punch, a lot of slam, and it'll really drive things home. And it's a heavy, hard-hitting bass, and it really will keep things moving. But it is a little bit bloated. It has a little too much, especially in the upper bass, and it bleeds into the lower mids. And at times it can go into a little bit of one-note mode in the bass, and it'll become a little bit sluggish, but boy, it will really pound. It's more about the quantity than it is the quality. Tone and timbre is okay. Detail retrieval is all right. It's not that great, especially for the price point, but it's decent. And then the resolution is okay. Mids. The mids of the quartet. It's kind of a two-part story when it comes to the mids. You have the lower mids, which get a little bit of warmth and a little bit of body because of that bass bleed. And they have a nice kind of tone about them and a fullness about them. And vocals that reside in the lower registers and instruments that reside in the lower registers of the mids sound nice and full, and they have a nice warmth to them, and it really kind of just catches you and we'll go, ah, this is nice. Upper mids are more forward and they thin out, and it makes the mids not cohesive. They're uncohesive. They're not balanced. So instruments, as they go through, the octaves will be nice and full, and then they'll thin out and become a little bit pushed forward. Vocalists will do the same. And if you have mixed groups, they'll sound off. They won't sound as even, and they just don't kind of gel together. And I find that it's just different to listen to. Now, changing the filtering, the tuning switches alters that a little bit, but at the same time, it still has some funkiness in the mids. And I prefer the lower end of the mids where the dynamic is kind of in control. But when the BAs come in, they thin out and they become more forward and a little bit more aggressive. In the 6 to 8K region, there's quite a spike, and it can be very intense and piercing. And so it will really drive home 8K. And if you're sensitive to 8K like I am, it can be a little bit ear fatiguing. And then the treble. The treble, with that lower treble being right around 8K, it's very aggressive. And then as you go through, it's pretty nicely extended, and you have a little bit of error in presentation is okay, but it's not natural sounding. So the mids and the treble both suffer from this artificial tone and timbre, and it just has this metallic edge to it, and it just doesn't sound quite realistic. And it's just missing what that bottom end has, which is a more fullness and better note weight and a little bit more closer to what a natural sound should be. And so I find that it's just a very uncohesive and not really balanced sound. Soundstage of the quartet is average. You're going to be able to tell differences in venue sizes, but it's not really going to sound open. The quartet kind of lacks clarity. It's a little fuzzy, and it just doesn't sound open. You can hear differences in size, but it's not a real open sounding IEM. Depth-wise, it's not the deepest. It does kind of lack in depth. Imaging is okay. Things travel across the stage. Every now and then it'll sound a little 3 blobbish, but for the most part, things will travel across. They'll kind of jitter a little bit as they go, but you can track things across the stage. It's not the most precise when it comes to placement, but you'll know it's over in this area, it's over in this area. Layering is a little bit fuzzy. Things will kind of get a little muddled and jumbled, and it'll do a little bit of one-noteness, as I mentioned, especially in the bass regions. So overall, I find that the tone and timbre of the quartet is kind of a tale of two stories. You've got the lower end that is a little closer to natural sound, and then you have the uppers, which have some metallic timbre to them, and just they sound a little tingy, and it just doesn't quite sound natural. It leans more artificial sounding, and so it's just a little odd. Detail retrieval is average for the price point. Resolution is okay. It's not really anything special. At times, especially in the uppers, especially if you activate the number 2 switch, it'll become harsh and glary. I don't mind a quartet, but I don't love it. And it has some flaws. And there are a couple other IEMs that kind of do what, where the quartet struggles, they kind of do that better. First one that we should look at is the Simgot EA500. The Simgot EA500 has better clarity, it has better detail retrieval, a little bit better resolution, and it has a wider and deeper soundstage, and it's more accurate in its imaging. It does have thinner note weight, and its treble can be a little peaky. Then you have the TRI Meteor. The TRI Meteor is not near as bloated in the bass, and it has better quality of bass. It's better detailed and resolving. The mids are more cohesive. They are slightly more forward. The treble is more controlled, but it is a little bit more on the laid back side. And it is more accurate in its tone and timbre. It has similar detail retrieval and resolution. And then stage width is similar. It does have a little bit better depth, layering, and imaging. So the Quartet. It's an interesting IEM. You can tweak it with various tuning switches, and you can play around with different genres of music. I found that more modern music sounded better on the Quartet. If you listen to older music, and if you listen to acoustical, classical, and jazz music, the Quartet really doesn't sound that good with it. So it kind of depends on what music you listen to and how nitpicky you are. I don't mind the Quartet, but I prefer other things over it. And I think that the Quartet is just another IEM in its price point, and it has a lot of competition. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on the screen, subscription links and notification bells. If you haven't already, please check those off. Don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video, and check out all the links down below. There's all kinds of information down here regarding how you can contact channel, follow channel, support the channel. All that kind of stuff is listed down below. And then lastly, don't forget to enjoy the music, and that honesty is the best policy.